across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon, and into next week staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We want to spruce up your spring with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash that you can spend however you like. But that's not all, as you'll also receive not one, but 2 brand new designer watches and a fabulous Mulberry handbag. For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
9 o'clock Thursday night, I'm Bev Turner in for Patrick Christys tonight.
So I'm bringing management of the NHS back into democratic control by abolishing the arm's-length body NHS England.
And just look at the faces of the audience. The Prime Minister has given NHS England the axe, but the devil, as always, is in the detail. Isn't this just a massive rebrand that won't make any difference to you, the patients? Also tonight. You might know who this man is, but it turns out that most of the public don't. At 10 o'clock, I'll tell you why the almighty reform bust-up isn't such bad news after all. Plus, Legendary columnist and friend of the channel, Peter Hitchens, thinks that dyslexia does not exist. So are we overdiagnosing kids with learning difficulties? Also, 3,500 churches have vanished over the past decade. Formerly the heart of most communities, they're now becoming nightclubs, houses and swimming pools. How and why did Christianity lose its way? On my panel tonight, it's former Tory MP Anna Firth, Conservative peer Lord Bailey and ex-Labour advisor Matthew Larser. Oh, and what's wrong with this?
Just caught a baby wombat.
Buckle up, Britain. It's bedtime, Bev. And Tesco's yellow label food, we're all a fan of it, aren't we? Well, it's free from 9 o'clock, 9:30 tonight. It's 9 o'clock now, of course. We've sent a reporter to see what he can bag for our panel. All of that after Aaron Armstrong with your news.
Thanks, Bev. Good evening to you. Our top stories. Donald Trump says Vladimir Putin's comments on the US ceasefire plan are promising but not complete, after the Russian president suggested he has issues with the proposal. The US president was speaking alongside the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, in the Oval Office shortly after Putin appeared to set out a series of sweeping conditions that would need to be met before Russia would agree to such a truce. Well, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has said Putin's response is manipulative. He's called for more sanctions against Russia to force them to the table. Well, Trump says he'll make sure Russia doesn't attack US allies, adding he has leverage on Putin without elaborating, and suggests progress is being made.
And maybe we're close. We're getting words that things are going okay in Russia, and it doesn't mean anything until we hear what the final outcome is. But they have very serious discussions going on right now with President Putin and others. And hopefully they all want to end this nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a horrible thing.
Thousands of jobs in the UK's healthcare sector will be cut after the Prime Minister announced NHS England is to be abolished to tackle bureaucracy. NHS England employs around 13,500 people. The move is expected to take up to 2 years. Well, Sir Keir Starmer says the state's overstretched and unfocused, and he's described the world's biggest quango as if they get rid of it, that'll refocus and reduce waiting lists. Sir Keir says the decision's been influenced by global events.
National security is economic security. And strength abroad, and we definitely need that more than ever at the moment, but that demands security back at home.
A teenager who stabbed a schoolgirl to death in a row over a teddy bear has been jailed for at least 23 years. Hassan Sintamu had a history of attacking girls and carrying knives before he killed Eliane Andam in Croydon in September 2023. He had admitted manslaughter but was found guilty of murder and having a blade after a jury rejected his claim that autism affected his ability to exercise self-control. Pastor Mark Rossell gave a statement on behalf of the family.
The fact that this crime was committed by a minor has unfortunately resulted in a sentence that we believe falls woefully short of true justice. Despite the horror of the crime, the premeditated nature of the attack, the brutality of her death and the permanent void it has left in our hearts, the legal system's response has left us feeling abandoned and unheard.
And the killers of Sarah Sharif have failed in their appeal against the sentences handed down in 2024 relating to the 10-year-old's murder. Irfan Sharif and Banash Batul were jailed for life with minimum terms of 40 and 33 years, respectively, after being found guilty of the murder. Sarah's uncle, Faisal Malik, was found guilty of causing or allowing her death. He was jailed for 16 years. Appeal judges heard how Sarah had suffered 71 recent injuries at the time of her death, including broken bones, burns and bite marks. The judges rejected the appeal and ruled that Sharif's sentence was not unduly lenient. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with more in just under an hour.
So, Bev, tonight, while Patrick is on his holidays, now this morning the Prime Minister stood before a very bored-looking audience in Hull and announced the first stage of Project Chainsaw, a radical reforming of what he calls the flabby and over-cautious state. But if you were sat at home watching me and my co-presenter this morning losing the will to live, maybe you're waiting for a new knee. Did Starmer channel his inner Elon Musk and get tough on wasteful spending?
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Let's just say he was the polar opposite of that. But did you see a radical refiguring of a broken system which guarantees a new set of teeth if you can arrive from a Calais on a dinghy, but may not be so rewarding if you've spent a lifetime paying into a system which frankly may not turn up if you call 999? Abolishing NHS England sounds impressive on paper, a whole taxpayer-funded but non-governmental organisation that makes serious decisions on healthcare services. Instead of sitting alone, NHS England will now amalgamate with the Department for Health and Social Care. Not so much an abolition then a merger. Think about it. NHS England currently employs about 15,000 people. The DHSC employs only 3,000. Do you really think that a Labour government are going to make over 10,000 civil servants redundant? And if they can, it begs the question, what have they been doing all day apart from attending meetings on the quality of their rainbow lanyards? The unions are already kicking up a fuss. So don't get too excited. In 7 months, this government has spent £650 million on consultants. In America, Musk simply went in with his accountancy team and a gang of tech geeks and made an alleged $100 billion of taxpayer savings with the flick of a pen. So I bet you that these merging departments in this country will cost thousands, hundreds of millions more. And that's before they've spent money on a new logo. And what changes might they want to bring into health that will require centralised government control? Just think about it, for that is what they now have. Reorganising is normally just a way of creating the illusion of progress. NHS England, incidentally, used to be called the NHS Commissioning Board for England. This will simply be its third iteration, burning your taxpayers' cash with no genuine imagination into how to change the NHS so that new knees and GP appointments become the norm. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Anna Firth, former Conservative MP, Lord Sean Bailey and Matthew Laza. Good evening.
Good evening.
All.
Good evening.
Right, Matt, did you hear anything today that seemed particularly radical?
Well, I think it is, I think it is quite radical to cut away a whole layer of management. And I think the key thing which you heard in Keir's clip there is to bring it back into democratic control, because the Tories did these reforms in 2012, which set up NHS England. Yes, there were committees and things before that, but they set up this big kind of big monster that has got duplicates all the functions of the Department for Health. It's got its own strategy department, its own press office, its own, future functions, which are all already done by the Department for Health. So I don't think it's going to transform life for every patient every day, but I think it's the right first step in moving in the right direction in terms of cutting out excess managers. They're going to cut 1,000 jobs. I don't think they're going to have a new logo because they're going to use the existing NHS and Department for Health ones. But and I think that is a really, really important, because I think whoever the Health Secretary is, whether they're a Tory, a Labour, Reform, whatever, they need to be able to say, we want to make these changes and not then hit the blob, as people called it. And I think NHS England as an organisation was part of that blob in terms of the government machinery not being able to deliver what the politicians have been elected to do.
But Sean, with the Conservatives having been in power for 14 years, how is it possible to lose this department? What are these people doing that they can go? Because I just don't believe they are going to go.
There's a number of things. Firstly, say I don't like to hear about anybody job losses. I think that's a very serious thing. The second thing to say is actually Keir Starmer's right, and why this is important. You are correct that it won't magically transform anybody's lives. There'll still be a lot of this staff hanging around, but the notion that we could start to get rid of some of the arm's length bodies is incredible. I've sat on this sofa many times and said the biggest challenge to this country is how many arm's length bodies we have making decisions.
Just explain what that is. Arm's length bodies. So they are non-governmental organisations.
That's right. That we fund. That make decisions that affect our lives that we have absolutely no control over.
Is there some benefit though to politicians not being involved in some of these
100%,
areas?
because it means tough decisions could be made and they can say, not me, Gov, I had nothing to do with me. And that's important. And this idea that you'd bring this power back to Parliament and Parliament would take responsibility, I think is a good thing. You could do it across the board. You could do it in policing, fire, everything. We need to go in this direction. And the other thing to say, why it's important that Keir Starmer's then, because let's see if he can take on his union buddies, because they will not take this line down. And remember, the NHS is the single largest employer in Europe, over 1 million staff. So 15,000 is actually not that big a deal.
You see, you're all nodding with this, which is just kind of plays into this idea that we live in a world of the uniparty in this country, right? Well, Anna, if this is such a good idea, why didn't the Conservatives do it before?
Well, this was creating NHS England in the first place was part of the Lansley reforms. That was a long time before I was in government, and to be honest, I was not a fan of the Lansley reforms. So actually, anything that shrinks the state and means there's more chance of our taxes actually going down, not up, I am always in favour of. But you put your finger on it, Beth, in your introduction, Bev, rather, sorry, because you said the question is this going to make a difference? That's the key issue. Yeah. I'm all for us shrinking the state and bringing accountability back to the centre, because it actually means the ministers are going to be accountable at the dispatch box. But let's look at Wales. We have a case study of Labour-run Wales. They don't have NHS England. It is run centrally by the Welsh Health Service, and it is a disaster. The waiting lists in Wales, there are 750,000 people in Wales still waiting for treatment. It's the largest waiting list since records began. You know,
just like we've got the largest waiting list in England that we inherited from the last government of over 7 million people in England are waiting for treatment.
The point is the case.
It's mildly higher in Wales, yeah.
When it's run directly by Labour. I'm in favour. I'm in favour.
We've also, Anna, we've also got the case study of the last government. When Labour left office in 2010, the Tory government, which then messed around creating things like NHS England, inherited the lowest waiting list in the history of the NHS. The cancer treatment diagnosis, in terms of 4 weeks from diagnosis to specialist appointment, from referral, actually happened. And you didn't see the situation we've had now. So, I agree with you that Wales could be better. But my goodness me, the situation in England could have been a lot better over the last 14 years.
There's another point here. It is a touch hypocritical for Starmer to be standing up saying that the solution is actually not to have more government quangos, when in fact since last July he's founded 27. We've got Great British Energy that isn't going to make any energy. Yeah. We've got Skills England. We've got transport. We've even got the Passenger Standards Committee. I mean, I find that absolutely ludicrous. And the other thing, this dovetails with his article in the Telegraph today, in which he says an even more ridiculous thing. He wants every penny of every pound to be spent on working people's priorities. Well, working people do not want £2 million being spent every single day on migrant accommodation.
Absolutely, that's why we're going to stop the boats, which you didn't do.
But this is the issue here. This is
just
the issue.
Just a slogan, Matthew.
It was
a slogan, not a strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the issue here, isn't it? The government needs to take on the blob. Kemi said it best. She said to Starmer, "You will not achieve anything, not because of what you have planned, because of the blob." We have such bureaucracy in this country. It's so big. It's growing itself. Now, if the Prime Minister wants to take it on, all strength to his elbow. I really hope he succeeds. But like you said in your introduction, the devil is in the detail. Will he actually be making any changes? Will he be shrinking the number of staff? Will he be returning the power to Parliament? Will we see better services? That still remains to be seen.
I agree with you, Sean. I think you're right. We need to see more. And this mustn't just be the end of reforming the NHS. It should just be the beginning.
But is his heart genuinely in making the state smaller, Matt, do you think?
I think what his heart is... I mean, look, the state does things we all like, educates our kids, the NHS, looks after us. We go to the library, we drive on the roads. But I mean, I think in terms of making sure that that ministers and Parliament have their hands on the levers and that they're not kind of stopped by the blob, as it's been known, I think is the thing. I mean, talking to people in government, I've got friends who've gone in as special advisors and indeed gone into the cabinet, and they all tell me, privately, The biggest frustrations are, the things that people voted for. You might, not everybody voted for them, but the things that the government is there to do, it often can't do because that kind of corporate inertia gets in the way. And I think, as Sean says, that's beyond party because we need to make sure that the priorities that people vote for can be enacted. So fingers crossed, it's the beginning.
It must be a bit embarrassing, though, Anna, as a Conservative, to think that the blob got so big under the Tories, that it's taking a Labour Prime Minister to come in and trim the fat.
Yes, of course, the state expanded during COVID. Of course it is, because we were dealing with a once-in-a-century pandemic. But if somebody is going to do something which is a good thing, then I am going to support it.
But that wasn't. But the massive civil service isn't just since the pandemic, is it?
Let's be clear. The issue for the civil service sped up its growth in under COVID.
Yeah.
The Conservatives at the wheel. That you can maybe excuse, but the growth in the state, we also had to put in that, and that was a big mistake. But I will say in our defence, Francis Moore did a piece of work to look at how we could shrink the state, and of course everybody in the left launched an attack and said it was wicked Tories taking the money away, and the blob just defended itself. And this isn't just about shrinking the state. I'm a Tory, I believe in a small state. What this is about is effectiveness.
Yeah.
The state is so large now, it's ineffective and expensive. We want effective, lower-cost state. That's what we really should be aiming at.
But there were other things we did which were very good, actually. Between 2010 and the last election, 300 quangos were actually done away with. So at least...
But the number of civil servants went up by hundreds of thousands under the Tories. So it doesn't matter if you abolish a few quangos, it's got about actually shrinking the size of the blob.
That, Matthew, but the proportion of spending now on the state is set to rise to 44% of GDP. That is unsustainable.
If it goes in... Sorry, of course, Sean,
before you freak out and blame everything on the Tories, remember this. Your union buddies, are staunch defenders of the growing of every part of the state. And sometimes why the Tories can't do anything is because they simply cannot beat the unions. And your union buddies will grow the state all day.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a big challenge for this government, is whether they take on the unions. Yeah, I agree with you.
Let's see if they can achieve it. So many a times when you say, the Tories failed, no, we didn't fail. The unions won. It's a slightly different... path to...
Well, hopefully we can win the battle with the unions.
I'm sincere.
I mean, I know what you mean. But we may be able to do it because of being closer to them,
OK, Matt, Sean, Anna, thank you. Now, we want to make your spring spectacular in our latest Great British giveaway with your chance to win £17,777 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but two sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound?
Oh my God, that's brilliant news.
For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, the shy and retiring Peter Hitchens has sparked outrage today after stating that dyslexia is yet another fabricated condition. Are we overdiagnosing kids with learning difficulties when really they just haven't been taught to spell? That's the head-to-head next. I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
First of all, are we talking about the West and the East, or is this a Western phenomenon?
Wholly Western phenomenon, which excludes China, where things are still in a healthy state.
What's happening in the West, then?
It's been going on for quite a while, and it started with the universities, and then affected the biennales conferences. Basically, it's this left drift, and the sense that, as in Vogue, we should care about the downtrodden, the marginal groups, the global south. We should criticize what's going on, and there's a sense of illegitimacy with everything which now is developed in most of the real-world developments we are, for instance, doing, as being neoliberal architecture. And so the discourse is shifting away, ignoring that and saying this is fallen, this is commercial, this is compromised. And we have a discourse about another world caring and looking after those who have been discriminated against. And that pulls a discourse and critical debate away from what's going on. And therefore what's going on is bereft of critique, of exposure, of debate, and becomes a craft.
We are looking at, on the screen at the moment, at some of the great buildings that you have been involved in. So tell me about the background to these. I mean, you were one of the architects here. What was your education? What was your inspiration? What led you to create buildings that look like that?
So I was originally educated in Stuttgart, Germany. I came here as a student, went to the South Bank University in the exchange program, and as a student joined Zaha Hadid, was a rising star in the field. And at that time, there was really a thriving discourse in architecture, grappling with this new world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is Patrick Christys. Tonight with me, Bev Turner, while Patrick enjoys his holiday. It's time now for our head-to-head. Daily Mail columnist Peter Hitchens has set the cat among the pigeons after he claimed that dyslexia is a made-up condition. Hitchens argues that learning difficulties have become a multi-million-pound industry to pathologised kids who simply haven't been taught to read and write properly. Almost a third of pupils are getting extra time in exams because of conditions like dyslexia. That's apparently 4 times as many as a decade ago. I suspect that number might be a little higher. And earlier this week, a new study revealed that lockdown fueled a massive surge in ADHD prescriptions, with experts warning that social media platforms are leading to misconceptions about the condition. So tonight, I'm asking, are we overdiagnosing children with learning difficulties such as dyslexia? Going head-to-head on this now are the broadcaster Lewis Oakley and the author and journalist Emma Wolfe. Good evening to you both. Lewis, let me start with you. Am I right in saying that you consider yourself to have dyslexia and find Peter Hitchens' approach appalling?
Not considered to have dyslexia. I did a whole test, I have a whole report, it's very documented. I have dyslexia and that's totally fine. And actually, it was brilliant to actually get that diagnosis because I had spent my entire education kind of thinking I'm just a bit thick. Whereas actually finding out, no, your brain works a little bit differently. You struggle with these certain things that actually, if you apply some tactics here and there that really help dyslexic people, actually you can end up writing a book, which is what I ended up doing.
Well, how does it manifest for you, Lewis? And how old were you when you realised that maybe something you were finding things a bit difficult?
Well, I think, I look back throughout my whole education. I think that, I remember being made to read Othello at the front of the class and all the other kids laughing because I just kept tripping over all the words. And it was just not, I think it was just a thing that the teachers back then just weren't trained to see it. So it was just like, oh, why can't he read? Like, what's wrong with him? And actually, I was diagnosed in my 3rd year of university. So literally the very end of my academic education, like, oh yeah, you were dyslexic this whole time, which was, a bit pointless. So I'm actually glad that these numbers are going up, because it means that actually teachers are finally on it. They're finally recognising that there are problems and the kids are getting the help that they need.
Emma, that's a very convincing case, isn't it? That this condition is real, and actually, as Lewis said, if it had been recognised when he was younger, his education journey might have been a little easier.
Sure. And look, I wouldn't go as far as Peter Hitchens. I think, it is unnecessary and slightly cruel what he said. I do believe that any child with severe learning difficulties or a condition genuinely like dyslexia should get the specialist support that they need. We can adapt, we can be adaptable, we can change learning styles. But why on earth, Bev, would these diagnoses of things like dyslexia, but also autism, ADHD, why would they suddenly skyrocket? Why would they suddenly skyrocket? There's a few reasons. Firstly, funding. Schools get funding for SEN, for specialist support. That's how the funding, once you get labels, then you get the extra funding. And this obsession with inclusivity means that children with even quite profound learning difficulties are included in mainstream schools. That's great. That's good for them with special needs. But what about children who have normal needs? What about children who are academically gifted? They're losing out. Secondly, benefits. Parents, unfortunately, this is unpalatable, but it's true. Parents, and I know them myself, are getting extra benefits for every diagnosis of ADHD. So there's a financial reason there. Thirdly, big pharma. Where there's a pill, there's an ill. And frankly, since Ritalin was invented, cases of ADHD have skyrocketed again. The waiting list to get your child, I don't know why any parent wants that label, the waiting list to get your child diagnosed with autism or ADHD are months and months and months long. And I don't think it's doing children a favour. I don't think that if children are having difficulties concentrating, having difficulty sitting down, reading books, Bev, they don't know what books are. They spend their young childhood in front of screens, guzzling ultra-processed food, not doing physical activity. The fact is, if you teach a child how to crawl properly, if you teach them how to run around in the open air, their reading improves, their concentration improves. All of those skills
that's not going to help me as someone that's just not going to help me. Running around outside with the butterflies isn't going to solve my dyslexia. So that's just not an argument. And with your argument there, you're basically saying that the NHS waiting list is too long for people that have got SEND needs, which it is, but then you're annoyed that when they kind of get the diagnosis that there's help available in schools and for parents to actually help them to sort of bridge the gap. Isn't that like the best kind of equality in trying to bridge those gaps? We're trying to put those kids on a bit of an equal footing?
Well, Lewis, actually, I think what we're doing is we're obsessed with inclusivity, and we're obsessed with everybody doing the same thing, everybody hitting the milestones at a certain time, everybody ticking off the Ofsted boxes, so that when children can't do a certain thing at 4 and a certain thing at 7, a certain thing at 10, we say that they're failing. They're not. What about if we took a radical approach and we said, actually, all kids aren't academic. All kids what about if at 14 children were able to go and be an amazing car mechanic or an amazing plumber or an amazing seamstress or fantastic at sport, fantastic at art? I'm really good at writing books. I'm rubbish at mending my taps. What about if we celebrated the fact that children are really good at different things instead of slapping a label on them at the age of 4
I think that
or 7
we are, though.
Let me just ask, because you're both parents as well, aren't you? You've both got early years children.
Yeah.
So, Lewis, you will presumably be more vigilant to whether your child is struggling in certain ways than maybe Emma would, and Emma might risk missing something that needs help.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the thing. We were talking about ADHD and dyslexia as though they just appeared as soon as TikTok appeared. They've always been there. It's just that we're more aware now. And what's actually quite interesting is a lot of the time now these kids are getting diagnosed and the parents are thinking, oh my God, maybe I wasn't thick all these years. Actually, maybe I'm dyslexic. Oh, actually, and people are just becoming more aware of things. And I know that, yes, we all spend too much time on our phones, but actually being able to watch a TikTok where people are saying, have you got this, have you got that? I didn't realise I was ADHD or dyslexic. It's the first time someone's actually thinking, oh my God, maybe this is me. And I think we are just more vigilant as parents now. I remember there was one teacher in school that said, does he have dyslexia? And I know, with my parents, they're kind of like, oh, it's just one teacher and, maybe that's just a bit of a fluke. You're not doing that well in that class. Whereas if I heard that from a teacher now, I'd be like, oh, let's just get her assessed.
Yeah, Emma, last word.
Well, no, I was going to say, I mean, this stuff about, a lockdown and the children, or everyone's been suffering from lockdown. My 4-year-old has a vocabulary which is off the scale. And that's because all we do at home is look at books and talk and talk and talk and interact. If he was sat in front of a screen, then I think he would have problems concentrating. I think he would feel sluggish, not able to. And most of us prefer to run around and not concentrate. But it's a skill that children need to learn. And I think we need to give them time and not put a label on them.
OK, broadcaster Lewis Oakley, author and journalist, of course, descendant of Virginia Woolf. Emma Woolf there, so no pressure on your child, Emma, to be able to read and write well. Thank you both. It is a thorny issue, isn't it? And, I think Peter Hitchens has raised an important topic. I'm sure there are instances where we are over-pathologising, but similarly, those kiddies who struggle, we need to give them the help they need. Right, coming up, a little-known Tesco initiative to hit net zero targets and cut waste. They're giving away yellow sticker food for free at 9:30 p.m. So I've sent GB News' yellow sticker reporter Joe Casper off to his local Tesco to grab a bag of goodies. We'll see what he finds. That's next.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We've got some warm weather on the way over the next few days across the eastern Mediterranean, but further west, very unsettled still, with some heavy rain and thunderstorms. The showers most prominent across parts of southern Spain through the course of Friday, an improving story across parts of Portugal, but colder than average temperatures across Iberia. Some heavy rain and some snow across northern parts of Italy and the Balkans, but down across Greece, some fairly warm and sunny weather for the time of year with temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As steak and ale is the most popular one. That's the one that's in the British Pie Awards. We've got chicken. We do a just steak. All the steak is slow cooked overnight, and then we shred it and mix it with Tracy's signature gravy. We've also now been able to put fruit pies on, and we do quiches as well.
This family-run pie shop in Dinnington is going for a big win at the British Pie Awards. The busy South Yorkshire store has only been open for 6 weeks, and already it's hoping for a prize for its pies.
It's British tradition. It lets especially independent people like us to get his name out there, especially if we win the award. Everybody loves a good pie, especially with we do meals with the mash and the chips and the peas and the gravy. We'll put baked beans on if they want them. It's just tradition, isn't it? Everybody loves a good pie.
For the customers here, pies are one of Britain's best dishes.
They're always full of goodness, aren't they? Hearty, filling, and you could put them with so many things, different vegetables, different types of potatoes. Yeah, just good all-rounder.
Feel-good food, innit? Pies, yeah. It's not like takeaway food, it's just feel-good food. Feel at home,
If it's got a nice filling and a nice pastry, there's nothing better. But just like them, the easy meals.
My family love all the pies here.
I've come in about 3 times a week this week, especially the quiches that you can see coming out of the oven. They're freshly made. You can take them home and freeze them.
So here we go. We've got the Handmade Pie Company's steak and ale pie, the one that's been entered for the awards. Let's give it a try. That is absolutely delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Bev Turner, only on GB News. So supermarket giant Tesco has announced that it's giving away reduced food for free as part of a net zero push to halve food waste by the end of this year. So these are the items that are about to go out of date. They're going to be marked down with the yellow stickers, and in some stores tonight from 9:30 p.m, you can just go in and help yourself. But is it all for show? They're ramping up the prices for normal food, of course, unless you give them all your data with a club card. We have sent out our resident yellow sticker reporter, Joe Casper, to his local Tesco to find out more. And he said morning, as usual for me. Evening, Joe. Right, tell us what's going on there. Is there a massive run on the yellow sticker food?
Well, not quite. There was a few people there, but Ollie and I, the cameraman, right now, we went in there about 5 minutes ago and asked, are these yellow stickers, there weren't many of them, are these yellow stickers going to be free at 9:30? The guy says, yes, they are, absolutely. And then, we couldn't believe our luck, he starts directing us to the bakery section. So, Bev, I've got you some treats. I've got you a croissant. I've washed my hands.
A croissant.
I've got you a cheese twist.
Oh.
A pecan thing.
Nice.
I don't know what they're called. And then one other thing. Oh, I've got a donut as well.
Lovely.
Donut. And best of all, I've got my dinner for the night. I've got a chicken, Hunter's chicken with bacon. It's down as £5.20. So it came up altogether at £10.10. £10.10, and I've got that all for free. It's incredible.
That is amazing. Is it a good time to tell you I'm going low carbs, Joe Casper, as you got me a load of pastries? I'm kidding. I'll eat anything, especially at this time of night when I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. So bring them back to the studio for us, Joe, won't you? Because we want to see what you've got. Was it a bit awkward? Was it a bit embarrassing just going in and helping yourself? To be honest, half the population are helping themselves to food for free in the supermarkets at the moment anyway, it seems.
Yeah, I'm pretty shameless, really. As I think my title on the screen will tell you, I'm a yellow sticker aficionado, so I'm used to this. I'm not used to not paying.
Yeah.
I must say. What I am going to try and do though, because they've got a cash machine here, I'm going to try and go to the cash machine, see if that also after 9:30 will give me free stuff.
Sadly not, Joe. I don't think so. Right, hot-foot it back here and I can have a croissant that's been sat there for 16 hours. Joe Casper there, who's going to make his way back to the studio. So joining me now is the award-winning charity worker, Nick Buckley, MBE. Nick, good evening. I mean, look, we're making a bit of light of it there. I mean, it was quite a fun thing to do, was to send Joe down and see what he could bring me back for free. But this will be a kind of lifesaver for some people, won't it? At the end of the day, they'll go in, they can get all sorts of stuff for free.
I doubt it. This sort of thing just really annoys me.
Go on.
This has got nothing to do with poverty, nothing to do with helping people in need in this country. This is virtue signalling from Tesco's. This is free advertisement for Tesco's. And this is Tesco's getting rid of their rubbish at the end of the day by allowing poor people to take it away. And who are those poor people? Tesco's are going to force certain poor people to leave their houses at night to walk the streets looking for something for free. So, you know, a mum's struggling, she's not going to go. She's going to leave her kids at home in bed so she can go to Tesco to see what's there. This is just virtue signalling. It doesn't solve the problem, doesn't help the problem. In fact, I think it makes it worse.
God, Nick, you really took the jam out of my donut there. I have to say, it was quite a fun item until we spoke to you. But I do know what you're talking about, and actually, this is part of Tesco's net zero, less waste agenda. But it's not really costing them anything, is it? If they're just going to throw it on the tip anyway.
It saves them money. Because, you know, if they're filling their bins at the back of the supermarket, that costs them money to get that removed. This is the way of free waste removal. It always has been. But it damages people. Let me give you this true story from a rough sleeper I was working on the streets with in Manchester city centre. He said something to me once, the first time I met him, that surprised me. He said, "Nick, I'm better than a rat." And I went, what do you mean by that? Well, rats have to climb through bins to find the stuff that people don't want. I'm lucky. People give me the stuff they don't want. He felt better than a rat. And we're still treating our fellow citizens just like that.
What should we be doing, Nick, to help people who genuinely are in poverty?
Split into two groups. First of all, the people who are in need today. So that's about education. That's about showing them how to manage their money, how to cook on the budget, how to spend their money and have some money left at the end of the week. Our benefit system is generous in this country. People are struggling because they can't manage the budget. That's the honest truth. Because you can have two people living next door to each other on the same benefits and one copes and one doesn't. Why is that? But the real thing we need to challenge, the real thing we need to get a grip on is tomorrow's poor people. We need to be doing work today to make sure the conveyor belt of poor people finally stops. And again, that's all around education, personal responsibility and aspiration. Aspiration is the real poverty we have in this country. People not understanding there can be better, that there's opportunities out there, that if they work hard at school and work hard, they can achieve in this country. That's the real poverty, a lack of aspiration.
Bingo, couldn't agree more. Nick Buckley there, MBE, a spokesperson for Tesco, has said, "We are constantly looking for innovative ways to reduce food waste. In all our stores, we offer unsold surplus food to charities and community groups, donating millions of meals each month." They say this trial in a small number of our express stores will allow customers to take any remaining yellow stickered items for free at the end of the day, after they have first been offered to charities and colleagues. Right, coming up, thousands of churches have swapped prayers for partying. Over the past decade, they've been replaced by nightclubs, swimming pools and housing. So how and why did Christianity lose its way during this period of Lent? We'll be finding out in just a few minutes. Oh, and I'll be covering for Patrick tomorrow night as well. There is still just enough time to get your ticket to join me here with a live studio audience.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. To finish off the week, we're going to see a cold start tomorrow, frost in places, then another day of sunny spells, but also some showers. And it's still going to be feeling largely chilly too. That's all thanks to this northerly flow of air, bringing in some cold air from the Arctic, stretching its way across the country. There's some slightly lighter wind, which are going to make things feel a little less chilly as we head into tomorrow. But for the overnight period, a continuation of some showers feeding into northern areas, likely bringing some snow particularly across the Scottish Highlands, and then later on to the night we could see some hill snow across parts of Wales too. But a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, but the clearest skies across parts of the south and southeast where we're likely to see quite a sharp frost. But overall into tomorrow, it is going to be a cold start for many. Still plenty of showers by the time we start Friday morning across the northeast of Scotland. Perhaps a little bit brighter across the west, though likely seeing some patchy frost here. Largely dry and bright across parts of Northern Ireland, though can't rule out a few showers skirting coastal areas. And a mix of cloud and some showers across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon. And into next week, staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Bev Turner, only on GB News. I am looking at the gbnews.com/you'll say, so do send me a message this evening, won't you? Now, they were once the beating heart of every community across Britain, but a staggering 3,500 churches have shut over the past decade. Some have been left to crumble away, whilst others have been transformed for other uses, such as the Repton Park Chapel in North London. I mean, look at this. It's fabulous. This has been turned into a swimming pool and wellness centre. You might not have a problem with that. What was originally a 19th century Pentecostal church in Salisbury is now the Chapel nightclub. Again, maybe you think that's all right. The Church of England has seen a historic decline in congregation members, losing 25,000 a year since 2013. This is the nightclub that we're looking at now. You might have a little bit more of a problem with that, but should you? Why have so many people, though, stopped going to church? Well, joining me now is the Vicar of Crofton Parish in Hampshire, the Reverend Canon Richard England. Good evening, Richard. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, those scenes
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Those scenes of swimming pools, nightclubs, wonderful, all good for the soul, good for the spirit, you might say. But somehow we've lost this idea that going to church should be good for the spirit as well in this country. When you see that number, 3,500 churches closed, how does it make you feel?
Well, I have mixed feelings, Bev. I mean, who hasn't watched Escape to the Country and thought, oh, a nice little converted chapel would be nice. Yeah. But equally, you can drive around any town or city in the country. You can see a carpet warehouse that used to be a church just a few miles up the road from us. We've got an old church that closed down a few years ago that's now part of a Slug and Lettuce. You can go there and have a different kind of spirit from what you would normally get. And, you know, it's mixed feelings to me. I understand completely that this is part of a huge change in the social fabric of our life together over the last 60 years.
And what do we lose? Because this is one of the things that occurred to me, Richard, is when I wasn't at GB News before this, I had a little business and I used to educate pregnant couples. I did antenatal classes. And over the years, I would sometimes have people that would come and sit in my classes who were members of the local Christian church. And when I would say to the group, who do you have to chip in when your babies are here? Have you got parents nearby? Who's going to come round with a casserole on a Wednesday night, or, you know, knit you a little hat for the child, whatever? The members of the church communities had this phenomenal support that left me quite envious, actually, of what they had. And I was fascinated by that, because that is one of the things that we're missing. It takes a village to raise a child, right, as they say. And so few people now, especially young couples, have that.
That's absolutely right, Bev. You know, if you think about a modern society, you think about an interaction of all sorts of different parts of the community. And it's very easy to think that modern Britain doesn't have a faith aspect to it. But we know that that's not true. We know that even if people are as less engaged with, you know, the organized bit of it, if you like, people often still have real questions about the spirit, about the soul, about the place of questions of faith within their lives and within their communities. And we know, you know, that no one could add up the amount of voluntary hours that are contributed to the life of a community by faith groups of all kind. But the thing I often think about, Bev, is that a failing building always follows a failing congregation.
Yeah.
You know, at one point that church was probably full of people, but something happened and they lost sight of perhaps you know, what it means to be the Christian church in modern Britain, and something happened and we kind of get to the stage whereby eventually it's just not viable anymore. And, you know, that's why I think it's so important, you know, people like me, my role is to say, okay, we've got to continue to renew ourselves. We've got to continue to ask what it means to be a Christian presence in our communities, or what it means to make sure that, you know, in the world today where you can't assume that people have got all of that heritage, they've got a connection to the past. You've got to be able to say, can you walk in for the first time and actually, you know, to understand what's going on, participate in the life of that church, be kind of, you know, welcomed into that community, learn it for yourself. And when we lose sight of that, I think, when we lose kind of sight of what is at the heart of it all, really, because churches are only secondarily a heritage project. First of all, they're a faith community. And we have got, you know, in my parish, we've got a 1,000-year-old building that we've got to look after, and we've got a 150-year-old building, and they're both amazing places. They're both amazing communities, but they survive and they thrive because the community gathered within them, it has got a kind of has got that strong sense of core faith and commitment that kind of brings us together and helps welcome other people into that community.
When I think about sort of the next generation and the schooling, let's say, that my children have had, there's an awful lot of emphasis on a diversity of religious education, lots of multi-faith celebrations, and really no extra focus on Christianity in this country. We've almost become ashamed, really, that is, even if you aren't necessarily a believer in a Christian God, our culture of Christianity with Easter and Christmas and Lent and all of that, we've almost become a little bit ashamed of that over the years, and that is what has contributed to limited congregations and churches therefore closing.
I think it's a lot of different things, isn't it? And I think, you know, I have to ask myself the question, has my denomination always been too reliant on the state, if you like, doing our work for us? Have we just assumed that kids would learn in school, would learn, you know, in the home in a way that doesn't happen anymore? Have we been outward looking enough? Because as you say, that doesn't happen anymore. And I think that there's, you know, there's pros and cons to both sides of that. You'd expect me to say that, of course you would. There's things that we lose when we don't, when we're not deeply connected to our past. And for us in the West, that's a distinctly Christian past, distinctly shaping, you know, distinct foundation to the shape of our values. But there's also, you know, deep questions for people in my position, which is you can't simply say, oh, well, it'll be all right because they'll learn it in school, they'll learn it elsewhere. If you can't actually learn the faith in the faith community, then, you know, Bev, we're always going to struggle, aren't we? That's always going to be a problem for us. And,
well, I think
you know,
You know, if we believe in a national identity and we believe that heritage is important and we believe that that sense of who we are is important, then we should all pay attention, shouldn't we? The Vicar of Crofton there in Hampshire, Reverend Canon Richard England. Thank you so much, Richard. Right, coming up at 10 o'clock, you might know who that man is. But it turns out that a lot of the public and even Reform UK members don't know who it is. I'm about to tell you why the Reform storm, that almighty bust-up between Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, may not be such bad news after all. Don't go anywhere.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. To finish off the week, we're going to see a cold start tomorrow, frost in places, then another day of sunny spells, but also some showers. And it's still going to be feeling largely chilly too. That's all thanks to this northerly flow of air, bringing in some cold air from the Arctic, stretching its way across the country. There's some slightly lighter wind, which are going to make things feel a little less chilly as we head into tomorrow. But for the overnight period, a continuation of some showers feeding into northern areas, likely bringing some snow, particularly across the Scottish Highlands, and then later on tonight we could see some hill snow across parts of Wales too. But a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, but the clearest skies across parts of the south and southeast, where we're likely to see quite a sharp frost. But overall into tomorrow, it is going to be a cold start for many. Still plenty of showers by the time we start Friday morning across the northeast of Scotland. Perhaps a little bit brighter across the west, though likely seeing some patchy frost here. Largely dry and bright across parts of Northern Ireland, though can't rule out a few showers skirting coastal areas. And a mix of cloud and some showers across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon. And into next week, staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound? For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's 10 o'clock. I'm Bev Turner in for Patrick Christys while he's on his holidays. Tonight, you might know who that man is, but it turns out that most of the public don't. At 10 o'clock, I'll tell you why the almighty bus stop in Reform may not be terrible news. Plus, an elite school in Wales has cancelled a Jewish speaker after pro-Palestine pupils warned that he would endanger their emotional safety. Give me strength. I'm going to have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panel tonight. I am joined by former Tory MP Anna Firth, Conservative peer Lord Bailey and ex-Labour advisor Matthew Laza. Oh, and I'll tell you what's wrong with this.
Just caught a baby wombat.
Buckle up, it's bedtime, Bev. And reporter Joe Casper is on his way back to the studio to bring us his free food heist. All of that after the news with Aaron.
Thank you very much indeed, Bev. Good evening to you. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Vladimir Putin's response to the ceasefire proposal is manipulative and says Russia is preparing a rejection of it. Well, earlier, Vladimir Putin appeared to set out a series of sweeping conditions that would need to be met before Russia would sign up to such a truce. Well, Donald Trump has been speaking too this evening. He says Vladimir Putin's comments are promising but not complete after the Russian president suggested he'd have issues with it. Trump says he'll make sure Russia doesn't attack US allies and suggests progress on the deal is being made.
A lot of the details of a final agreement have actually been discussed. Now we're going to see whether or not Russia's there, and if they're not, it'll be a very disappointing moment for the world. He put out a very promising statement, but it wasn't complete. And yeah, I'd love to meet with him or talk to him, but we have to get it over with fast. You know, every day people are being killed. It's not like, as we sit here, 2 people will be killed. Think of it. 2 people are going to be killed during this little period of time. Thousands of people a week are dying. So we really don't have very much time. We have to make this fast. It shouldn't be very complicated.
Well, staff at the hospital where Lucy Letby murdered 7 babies could face gross negligent manslaughter charges. Police investigating the Countess of Chester Hospital, where the nurse worked, have widened their inquiries to determine if senior staff were responsible for causing the deaths. An undisclosed number of suspects have been notified, but no arrests have been made. Letby serving 15 whole-life prison sentences for murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 others between June 2015 and June 2016. Thousands of jobs in the UK's healthcare sector will be cut after the Prime Minister announced NHS England is to be abolished to tackle bureaucracy. The body employs around 13,500 people, with the move expected to take up to 2 years. The Prime Minister has said that the state is overstretched and unfocused, and abolishing what he's described as the world's biggest quango will allow the service to refocus on reducing waiting lists. Sir Keir says the decision's been influenced by global events.
National security is economic security. And strength abroad, and we definitely need that more than ever at the moment, but that demands security back at home.
And a teenager who stabbed a schoolgirl to death in a row over a teddy bear has been jailed for at least 23 years. Hassan Sintamu had a history of attacking girls and carrying knives before he killed Eliane Andam in Croydon in September 2023. He admitted manslaughter but was found guilty of murder and having a blade after a jury rejected his claim that autism affected his ability to exercise self-control. Pastor Mark Rossell gave a statement on behalf of the family.
The fact that this crime was committed by a minor has unfortunately resulted in a sentence that we believe falls woefully short of true justice. Despite the horror of the crime, the premeditated nature of the attack, the brutality of her death and the permanent void it has left in our hearts, The legal system's response has left us feeling abandoned and unheard.
Well, that's it from me. More in about an hour's time now. Back to Beth.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
So they say a week is a very long time in politics, but if you are a Reform voter, this week must have felt like a year, because there are few things more depressing than having hope dashed. And that is what seemed to happen a week ago tomorrow. Consistently leading in the polls with a membership edging towards 250,000 people, Farage's party looked solid and on track for council election wins this spring. Then outspoken MP Rupert Lowe got caught in a Daily Mail interview questioning Nigel's character for high office. He had the whip removed, albeit the explanation for that is a long-standing bullying allegation involving members of his office, not him, and an accusation that he physically threatened party chair Zia Youssef. Now, of course, Lowe denies the allegations and is actively challenging those claims. It may not have helped that Rupert told the Mail that illegal migrants should be sent to an island off the coast of Scotland and, quote, let the midges do their work. Farage says there is no way back for Rupert Lowe, and I know that a lot of you at home will be very disappointed by that. He is an extremely popular local MP in Great Yarmouth, not least because he doesn't act like your typical MP, and maybe that's part of the problem. You need to be a team player first and a strong individual second. Politics is not for everyone. But good news for those of you that were despairing that the LabCon Uni Party have won all over again. A GB News poll conducted by JL Partners concluded that when 2,000 people were asked, who is this man, and shown a picture of Lowe, 86% had absolutely no idea. Even 71% of Reform voters didn't know who he was. He may have been 20% of Reform's sitting MPs, but those figures suggest that the Reform storm will end up being nothing but a light spring breeze. Let's get the thought of my panel. Conservative peer Lord Bailey, former Labour advisor Matthew Larser and former Conservative MP Anna Firth. Now, I don't go quite as fast as Patrick Christys because he doesn't wear high heels, at least not in public, so bear with me while I get over to the sofa. Anna, when you see what's happened to Reform this week, there was a time, maybe over the weekend, when it felt like the temperature was very, very hot on this issue, and it was hard to see how Nigel and the party could resolve it. It seems to have died down, and this polling is showing actually that maybe Rupert Lowe won't have that much impact.
Well, I still think it's actually very, very damaging for Reform, and Rupert Lowe's letter published today on Twitter shows that you know, he's not letting this drop. He wants to try and resolve it, but equally in the letter he's making it very, very clear that he is going to pursue this. He regards the allegations that have been made against him as defamatory. But I mean, the main thing here, this is a pattern, isn't it? You know, Nigel Farage, very charismatic, you know, brilliant on GB News. Cannot govern a party. This is a pattern. You know, he pushes out talented people, pushed out Suzanne Evans, pushed out Patrick O'Flynn, split up with Ben Habib. I mean, he couldn't run a bath, could he? Let alone run a country.
So what do you think has happened there? Because that point that I was making then about the fact that in politics you do have to be a team player first and foremost. Surely at this stage of a party's development, particularly, well, it's really crucial that surely you literally toe the party line.
Well, but that's the whole point. I mean, politics is a team game. And if there's only 5 of you and you can't even stick together when there's 5 of you, no way are you ever going to be able to stick together when there's 200 or 250. What this is showing us loud and clear is that Reform isn't actually a serious party at all. It's just a collection of people who've got their own points of view. And it's actually a real shame, because Rupert Lowe is probably the best parliamentarian that they've got. 50% of Reform's parliamentary activity comes from Rupert Lowe. You know, the letters he writes, the things that he says. And I actually think he'd be an awful lot more comfortable on another side of the House. And I hope he will think about coming across.
Is that you invited him back?
You invited him?
I mean, it's not for me. It's not for me to invite him. But, you know, we're a broad party. And if he wants to come and have a conversation, I'd have a conversation.
With his talk of mass repatriation, I'm not sure that some of those in the Tory party wouldn't be that happy about if he came back.
I don't know. What do you think, Sean? He's saying take the illegal migrants, put them on a Scottish island and let the midges do the rest. Maybe Kemi Badenoch would love to hear that.
I mean, Kemi's probably a bit more measured than that.
Absolutely.
But we are a broad church. There's certainly be room for that sort of view of what we should do in mass migration in the party. Look, the thing I'd say is this. I said very early on there's a difference between politics and governance, and if you want to grow a political party, you have to show you can govern inside your party, because that is a reflection of what you would do outside of your party. And, you know, Reform have had a really good run because they were a new, exciting thing. But what they didn't realise, like many new Labour MPs, the press isn't just ranged against the Tories. You had 14 years of Tories being hunted down. What they're realising now, they're ranged against anyone who's in power, Labour MPs, and anybody who sticks their head above the parapet. Reform. And in the press world, this is a juicy story.
Yeah.
And what really makes it juicy is Nigel's history of maybe not getting along with the people at the top end of his party or feeling challenged by them and pushing back. And also, it doesn't matter which party you are, you have to respect Rupert Lowe as a parliamentarian. He's a very effective, very diligent parliamentarian. So when you fall out with him, it looks like something has gone wrong.
But Matthew, in this conversation, everyone is forgetting these bullying allegations going on behind the scenes. And two women who've made these complaints. Do you think this fallout is due to that? Or is it this play of egos that the media is depicting it as?
Well, clearly, I think there must be, there must be something in these allegations, because otherwise they'd have been dismissed. They have appointed an independent KC to look into them. Rupert initially said that, the KC had just dismissed them all. It seems that's not quite the case, and the KC is looking into them. The police, we don't know how far that will go, but the police are involved over some of the allegations as well. I mean, I think it really shows that, I feel a bit sorry for Nigel, because Nigel wants to try and turn Reform from being a band of people who agree on Twitter to being a potential governing force in Britain. He's on a hiding to nothing, because it doesn't have that level of discipline. It doesn't have an actual coherent ideology behind it, apart from being angry. And I can understand a lot of that anger. I can understand why a lot of former Labour voters have said to tell pollsters that they might vote Reform. But, some of the things Rupert Lowe have said are they're fine on Twitter, but, they're just ridiculous in terms of a governing philosophy.
It's really important to point out as well, I just want to repeat this, that these allegations of bullying aren't against Rupert Lowe himself. The idea that there was a culture within some of his offices that he failed to maybe deal with quickly.
I think the allegation about the police looking at is directly about him, but he denies it, doesn't he?
And
he completely denies it.
With Zia Youssef, the chair of the Reform Party.
Which apparently was weeks ago and has only just been referred to the police. Well, if it was that bad, wouldn't you have referred it at the time?
But there's two ways.
Clearly.
But there's two...
One more quick point, Sean. This has clearly affected Farage's popularity, though. According to YouGov, his unfavourability rating has doubled in the last week.
Yeah.
So it's not
for Nigel himself, but the Reform were topping the polls again today.
But this is what we've been, told repeatedly. But every time it comes to a by-election, actually, it's the Conservatives that are winning. The Conservatives have won, I think, have gained 23 seats. I think Reform have gained 8. So 3 times the number of seats. When it actually comes to putting your cross on a piece of paper, people are rejecting this failed Labour Party, and they are actually voting for the...
Well, we'll see what happens in Runcorn and Helsby.
Here's the real risk for Nigel. It's people in the know. It's people who are Reform through and through, who normally came from the Tory party. These are the people who'll be affected by these stories. They'll start to ask themselves the question, actually, have I joined a protest party? Have I calmed down? Should I be giving Kemi a proper hearing? It's those people they'll lose. And why those people are important? Because they are the foundation on which you would build a new party.
That pivotal interview that Rupert Lowe gave to my morning co-presenter, Andrew Pearce, in the Daily Mail, was kind of lit the touch paper, didn't it, with all of this? Should he have been allowed, Rupert Lowe, to give that interview, Matt? Should he have gone to the party for permission at this delicate stage of their development?
Well, I mean, although it seems, authoritarian, if parties are going to have message discipline, as those spin doctors, albeit a retired one like me, are all about, then you have to have control control. Everything that every minister says has to go through a number 10. Everything that the Kemi's shadow cabinet has to go through Kemi's office as well. And, you know, even the Lib Dems have message discipline. So what I think, when they're not in a surf suit. So I think, yes, if it was going to be a grown-up party. But apparently one of the problems is that Rupert says that he didn't want to be told what he could and couldn't say at a conference. And some of the language that he wanted to put in was about, you know, use of words like mass repatriation. And maybe I've not got the phrase right, but, you know, something along those lines. You know, that's really unacceptable, even to a lot of people in Reform. So you cannot just be a big personality. It's one thing, you know, for us somebody to be on the media and express their views as individuals like we do. It's another thing if you're on part of a team, and especially when that team is so small.
But that's what it goes to. If Nigel Farage wants a political party, he has to construct one.
Yeah.
And he should have said to anybody who wants to join, here's the deal. There's only 5 of us, and we're effectively the front bench, right? If you're going to have opinions that are outside of what we've arranged, sayonara, you're no longer a member.
It's kind of what he said.
No. What he done, he let something go wrong.
Yeah.
Now, so a person could be of the opinion, you know, well, because they're not doing what Nigel wants, he gets rid of them. Not really. They're not doing what the party wants, but Nigel hasn't set it up that way, and that's where the problem lies. If you're going to govern, you have to set things up and you have to have systems. They don't have those systems.
But I'm quite surprised, though, because, I mean, Lee Anderson himself, of course, you know, ran foul of the Conservative chief whip and ended up, you know, leaving the Conservative Party. So Lee Anderson, as the
he used to be a comrade of Lee Anderson's in the Labour Party.
Lee Anderson, you would have thought, would have learned from that experience just how important it is.
I did say
keep everyone
to one of the
together.
senior members of Reform this week, why did you let Rupert Lowe do that interview? And he said, if you ask me that question, it means you don't know Rupert Lowe.
Yeah.
In other words, we could have told him you don't doing it, and you're not doing it, and he'll say, I can do what I want.
But that is his right. Just be clear, he's elected in his own right.
That's why I'm interested to know what politicians think. Yeah.
I'm a member of the GLA. I'm part of a group, but we discuss everything. We're really good at that. But ultimately, we always have to say to each other, but of course, you can make the decision to do that, but you will set yourself against the group. What will you have to do in our defence? And that's why some of what Nigel's done is a natural reaction, and Rupert Lowe also has to have some responsibility to the party.
Yeah. But it all comes down, I mean, that's the key point that you've made there, Sean. It all comes down to effective communication within your group.
He was very effective when he communicated.
But what's happening now is the communication is all in public. It shows
it's
that
agreement.
it should have been behind closed. It should have been behind closed.
And one of the problems is that with the looking towards the local elections coming up in a few weeks' time, that they were hoping that they were going to have a new army of people. Yes, people who tweet, but people are also going to deliver leaflets and knock on doors. The problem now is I'm told by one of the ex-Brexit Party MEPs told me that they were still in some, you know, some WhatsApp groups and they're all dividing. Are you on Team Nigel or Team Rupert? That's not good when you need to motivate those workers
That is the
to go out and knock on the doors.
That is the beginning of the end. You've only got 20% have gone already.
Well, maybe. I mean, obviously, Nigel Farage would say that this is early days between now and the next election. Anything could happen.
And he's correct.
You'd be daft to write Nigel off.
This is a pattern, that's the thing. I mean, he's had the UKIP party, they couldn't get on. Brexit party, ultimately, they couldn't get on, and now here we are again.
That's a serious point. If I was Kemi, for instance, I'd be pointing out this is Nigel's second or third party. You know, they're not consistent. They're not serious. You know, Labour, love them or hate them, they've been consistent over years and decades, and that's the point, isn't it? And Rupert Lowe and this fight is at precisely the wrong time. What makes political parties is local councillors. I'll tell that to anybody all day long. You elevate your local councillors, they give you an MP, and to do that now could be real damage.
And with this parliamentary by-election coming up, we haven't got a date for it yet, but when it coming up, which with the, you know, Mike Ainsbury, the punching MP, the replacement for him, that was going to be a big test for Reform. People were betting that Reform was going to at least challenge really close, if not take it. It's looking less likely now.
We can discuss this all night long, but we're going to see the answer.
And Reform aren't here, but they would say maybe they still...
They may still. If I was Labour, I wouldn't be getting complacent.
Very interesting.
If they do...
Thank you. Now, we want to make your spring spectacular, of course. We've got our Great British giveaway. You can win £17,777 in tax-free cash. I think they came up with that number just because it's difficult for us presenters to say. Here are all the details that you'll need.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound?
Oh, my God. That's brilliant news.
For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
So coming up, an elite school in Wales has cancelled Jewish journalist Jonathan Sacerdote after pro-Palestine pupils warned that he would endanger their emotional safety. Jonathan joins me live in just a few minutes.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Trans police officers will be allowed to strip search women despite ongoing backlash from critics. New guidance for the National Police Chiefs Council says that biologically male staff who identify as women should be allowed to intimately search women as long as they possess a gender recognition certificate. Now, what could possibly go wrong? But some women's rights groups claim that the police had forgotten about women in their pursuit of gender ideology. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm now joined by the Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner, Lisa Townsend. Lisa, a delight to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much for joining us. A lot of people have very, very legitimate concerns that if you're a woman, you're in a vulnerable position, you're being searched intimately, it should be another woman who is searching you. And a trans woman, in a lot of people's eyes, isn't a woman. They're a biological man who says they're a woman. What's your take on this?
I'm afraid that this is just the latest in a long line of announcements like this from the NCC about the ability for trans police officers to search women, males essentially, to search women. We wouldn't think it was okay anywhere else, and it's not okay in policing. I think there's also another way of looking at this, which is it's not just male officers, and they are born male. We are talking about males being able to search women. It's also the other way round. It's also female officers potentially being told that they have to search a trans woman, i.e. a male who has been brought into custody. That male could have been brought into custody because he himself has been violent, and he is insisting that he is a woman and therefore, you know, there's no time to check the gender recognition certificate, but that's how he identifies, and he insists on a female officer searching him. So I think we have to look at this on both sides, and either way it can't be right.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys with me, Bev, this evening. Now, an elite school in South Wales has faced criticism for cancelling an invitation to a Jewish journalist to speak to students. Why? Well, because a pro-Palestine group warned that it would endanger their emotional safety. Jonathan Sacerdoti was set to address students on journalism and anti-Semitism at UWC Atlantic last Sunday before his appearance was scrapped at the very last minute. And in an ironic twist, the independent school was originally founded by a Jewish educator who fled the Nazi regime with the aim of promoting global understanding. You couldn't write it, could you? Well, journalist and broadcaster Jonathan Sacerdoti joins me now. Good evening, Jonathan. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. Free speech is so important. We have to expose students to all sorts of opinions and attitudes that they might disagree with. When they say it would endanger their emotional safety, what do you interpret that to mean?
I don't want to be too dismissive. I understood from the school in the long discussions we had whilst trying to plan the meeting that their student body is made up of people from around the world. It sounds like quite a unique enterprise, the school. They educate people from the royal family of Spain, but also people who come from refugee camps in the Middle East. And so they said that that means sometimes on certain topics, some of the students might be emotionally triggered or might find it difficult to hear perspectives that are different from their own. But the problem is that I went along with all of that and was willing to accommodate all the needs they had in order to make sure that I was sympathetic and gentle with the students in the discussions that we'd have. And in fact, the reason that I was invited in the first place is I think some of the students at the school had felt that their views hadn't been well represented over the last 17 months since October the 7th. And they wanted to have somebody who could put across some element of the fear that a lot of Jewish students had and a lot of Jewish people as a result of the massive rise in anti-Semitism that's been going around the world. So I think that the school had this tough job of trying to balance the two, but I think they completely failed because despite all of my reassurances and despite my reputation, which is for being a calm and rational person in public events and debates, they decided that it was just too risky or dangerous or threatening to even have me in the room with the students. And I really think that was the wrong decision.
It makes my blood run cold, actually, Jonathan, to hear this, because effectively the youngsters, how old are these kids that you were going to talk to?
Well, this is a sixth form school, so they're all, you know, the couple of years before university.
Yeah, 17, 18, some of them might even still be 16. They have decided and they have effectively overpowered the adults in that organisation, and you presumably taken the decision out of their hands. What are we teaching the next generation about tolerance and understanding and listening?
Well, again, I don't want to make any assumptions here. I was told by the school staff who I dealt with that there was a problem potentially with some of the students, but I only know that from them. For all I know, the teachers or those organising the event didn't like my opinions or my views or think that my presence was appropriate. And I have heard since then that some students were quite upset that I wasn't going to be coming to the school to speak as had been advertised to them, even potentially some of the students who didn't agree with things they'd read in my analysis online. And the point is that I am somebody that is outspoken and well known in certain circles for my views and analysis on these issues. I've been campaigning against anti-Semitism pretty much all of my adult life. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and as such I've been very finely tuned to those sorts of issues. Now, this school was founded by a refugee who left Germany to escape Nazism. It's the same man who also founded Gordonston, where the king was educated, and he believed in making educational institutions which would bring together people from around the world and also instill in them kind of endurance and toughness. And I would have assumed that would also extend into freedom of discussion and thought, and that the whole point of having people from different perspectives speak to the children is in fact to give them new perspectives, new ideas, test their thoughts and ideas and have an engaging conversation, which is my ultimately, when they did offer me that I could address the children but only through a pre-recorded video that I would have to send them, and even the questions that the children would ask me had to be vetted and sent to me for me to give pre-recorded answers. I did decline that offer, because they cancelled what I felt was a far more constructive and useful idea, which was a two-way conversation between real people in one room. And that way I could have gauged what the children were making of what I said, I could have heard their thoughts and arguments, and we could have had an actual dialogue. And I would have thought that's exactly what the school should be trying to promote in general. But I think they massively failed, both the Jewish and Israeli backgrounded children who maybe wanted me to be there, but also all of the students, because it's part of their education to learn how to deal with ideas they don't necessarily know or agree with.
Well, apparently not, Jonathan Sakadosi, which means we're staring down the barrel of basically a future of more division and less reasons to bring people together. A spokesperson from UWC Atlantic told GB News, UWC Atlantic is an international college with children aged 16 to 18 from diverse backgrounds, including those who have direct experience of conflict and trauma. And we have a deep responsibility to ensure all discussions are conducted with sensitivity. The college regularly hosts events and workshops with internal and external speakers to provide a wide range of perspectives on world affairs. These are designed to foster constructive dialogue, utilising mutual respect, critical thinking and peace building. They go on. We explored alternative formats to ensure that discussions could take place, but unfortunately Mr Sakadosi declined these options and we were unable to find a mutually agreeable way forward. We remain committed to fostering open and meaningful discussions that enhance our students' understanding of important world issues. Do you agree? Now, coming up, I'll bring you all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panel and some breaking news tonight. A cabinet minister has been caught using AI to come up with policy ideas. That's next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We've got some warm weather on the way over the next few days across the eastern Mediterranean, but further west, very unsettled still, with some heavy rain and thunderstorms. The showers most prominent across parts of southern Spain through the course of Friday, an improving story across parts of Portugal, but colder than average temperatures across Iberia. Some heavy rain and some snow across northern parts of Italy and the Balkans, but down across Greece, some fairly warm and sunny weather for the time of year with temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, Egypt has discovered, well, I think it was a British and Egyptian team, actually, finding the historic discovery, the long-lost tomb of King Thutmose II, the last of the lost tombs of the kings of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty.
Yes, and it's the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922.
A very exciting discovery, and here to tell us all about it is the historian and author Martin Whittock. Martin, the first royal tomb since Tutankhamun.
Indeed, indeed, and identified as King Thutmose II. Other pronunciations are also available. And as you say, it's the last of the lost tombs of Egypt's 18th dynasty. They ruled between about 1550 BC and 1292 BC. It had been known before this tomb since 2022 as Tomb C4, as its occupant was then unknown. But what's happened now is parts of alabaster vessels have been found which have inscriptions bearing the name of Pharaoh Thutmose II and identifying him as the deceased king, along, interestingly, with the name of his wife, Hatshepsut. Now, she's an interesting woman because after he died, she ruled as pharaoh in her own right, one of only 2 women to do so in ancient Egyptian history. Now, the mummy of King Thutmose II was actually discovered during the 19th century at a nearby archaeological site known as Deir el-Bahari Kashet, and it's thought it was moved there after it had been looted by tomb raiders centuries ago. So the tomb is not going to give us the kind of treasures that we associate with Tutankhamun, I'm afraid, but it shows us the architecture of these royal tombs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Bev Turner, only on GB News. We're going to look at tomorrow's headlines tonight. And also, the reason we're giggling here is that we have the food that was brought free from Tesco's this evening. Well, we'll be telling you how fresh these breakfast goodies are. But let's have a look at tomorrow's headlines tonight now. We're starting with the paper. NHS revolution, it says. Streeting seizes control of £192 billion health service to force change. Of course, that was the big announcement today from Sir Keir Starmer to revolutionise what he sees as NHS bureaucracy. And the Mirror are leading with Put the Knives Down. This is the murdered teenager's family pleading on crime as killer is jailed for life. Yet another knife death and criminal case there. The Independent has got Prime Minister's bonfire of the bureaucrats leading with the same story as the in NHS England is scrapped. They say Starmer's astonishing abolition of the £200 billion quango in charge of day-to-day running of health service brings it back under control of ministers. And the front page of the Daily Telegraph, they leading on the situation between Russia and Ukraine. Peace on my terms, they say, warns Putin. But there is no doubt that we are looking closer to a peace resolution between Russia and Ukraine than we have at any point in the last couple of years. And this story, guys, should we talk about this as well? The Cabinet Minister caught using AI to come up with policy ideas. This is Peter Kyle, the Science and Technology Minister, Anna, who's been caught going on AI to come up with government policy. Is that
I thought that all Labour cabinet ministers did this sort of thing. It's cut and paste, isn't it? Isn't that what Rachel set the trend? But I think he is the. I mean, I think this is absolutely shocking as it happens. But I think he is the AI minister.
Yes, he is. So, he's the Science and Technology Minister.
So I guess he's going to say that it was some sort of experiment to see how good it was. But I mean, obviously this isn't good enough.
I'm in a completely different place. I fundamentally disagree with you. This is exactly what he should be doing, and other ministers should be doing as well. It's a tool.
What?
And what he's done, he's put some challenges into AI and see what it's come back with to help his thinking, to broaden out his thinking. Remember, when you deal with a decent AI tool, you're using something that basically has a sum of human knowledge in it.
No. You have just done yourself out of a job, Lord Bailey. This means we can cancel.
All the time.
We can cancel the House.
Maybe we should have an AI House of Lords.
Don't bother going in tomorrow. I will sit here in the GB News studio. I'll put our problems into ChatGPT and we'll solve everything.
No, come on. You've got to be more sophisticated than that. It isn't him just saying to the computer, tell me what to do. It's him using the computer's ability to gather information, to crunch numbers, to look at stuff. It's part of the input he will use in his own head to make serious decisions. It's a great tool. It speeds through the chunky reading you have to do to make any decent policy. I think it's a great thing to do.
So I've got three children who've all used this time to time, but one thing they have all told me is it is not 100% accurate.
Yeah, and he will not be using it.
He's not going to do it unchecked.
He's not just going to go, the computer said.
That's the policy. Yeah. He's not quite like that, Anna.
Hang on a minute. If you are a minister, you are meant to have some ideas of your own. And if indeed all our ministers are doing is using AI, it's back to what Ben.
It's not all he's doing.
It's not all he's doing. No. I'm sorry. That's untrue, and you clearly don't understand what AI is for. Imagine you have a bright idea. AI would help you test that idea because it can compare it to so many more inputs than you could do yourself. That's the whole point. If it said Minister Googling, we wouldn't have anything to say. Google is dumb. At least this has some kind of real computational power to help somebody make a real decision.
Isn't a lot of AI, though, propaganda-based? It's baked into AI, Matt, and it's often left perspectives, politically left. If you put into AI questions about Trump, you'll get a very different response than if you'd put up, particularly during the election period, a question about Camilla Harris. So, well, maybe it suits the Labour government. Who knows?
Well, I mean, one of the things that Peter Carr's been doing as Science Minister is trying to put in place protections. I mean, actually, although he's been very controversial over the past couple of weeks. Yeah, but over the last couple of weeks, he's been very controversial because the newspaper industry and the creative industries have been running a big campaign saying that the Labour government's not putting enough protection in for their work because effectively it gets fed in and not credited, and obviously, you know, they don't get the money that's due to them. So, you know, maybe this is a bit of a kick up the backside of reminding the government that actually, as Sean says, it can be an amazing tool, but you have to respect the people whose work is going into it.
Do you use AI? You're writing anything?
I don't, partly because one of the things I do, and I'm not sitting on the sofa pontificating, is write speeches, and I'm worried it's going to put me out of a job. So I'm desperately trying not to use it for now.
This is how you should understand AI. AI writes terrible speeches.
It does.
Because they're wooden, and they don't understand. It doesn't understand how to deliver in the style of a given person, where a speechwriter would. But what AI does do, imagine you're talking about, OK, what's the most efficient way to get 1,000 people through a door? AI can show you 1,000 different models in a way that something else...
And then you can take the decision.
Sean, that's not actually correct, what you just said, because I was actually sitting in the Commons when Dr Luke Evans, I'm wanting to say, delivered the first speech using AI in the style of Winston Churchill, and listening to him speak, it took a good few minutes before he then told everybody what he was doing. It was absolutely in the style, so it can do that.
That's because there's so much of Winston Churchill stuff out there.
And also, that person could deliver it. The point is, AI can't do what humans do. What AI does is help humans do things better. That's the point, isn't it? Because if you took out the AI...
The clue is surely in the headline. Cabinet Minister caught using AI to come with policy ideas.
It's a freedom of information request.
We are reading the British press. There is no group of individuals in the world with the ability to make anything look bad as good as this. But you rescue a puppy, you can rescue a puppy and they'll make it look like you've done the wrong thing. I mean, they're expert at that.
Well, I don't think we know quite enough about the story to know exactly
and it sounds like he's going to have to defend himself. It might, you know, he might say, well, this is precisely what we should all be doing. That is his job, science, technology. We've tried here sometimes with the team. I've asked them to put some stuff in to see if we could do a speech. And it will, a monologue kind of in the style of me. Yeah. And I read it and I go, oh, she sounds like an idiot, which some of you might say is very accurate. But then it's not me. It's not from the heart.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the difference.
2 hours completely rewriting it. And in the end, it bears no relation to the original monologue.
I mean, one of my colleagues has quite bad dyslexia, and he uses it. Well, yeah, depending if you ask Peter Hitchens, and he uses actually Peter Kyle does as well. I think if I can remember that correctly. So just people use it in different ways. The whole thing is it needs the human check at the end, but you can use it to generate ideas.
And we are
to
not,
find out
particularly in an education setting, we are not keeping up with what AI means for our kids. They are using it, and the teachers are clueless.
But it's impossible now, in many ways, to see who's been cribbing their homework.
There's AI tools that spot AI tools.
Yes. Let's have a little bit of American news, of course. St Patrick's Day on Monday, American Vice President J.D. Vance was getting into the spirit of things with his choice of socks, and he managed to catch President Trump by surprise during a meeting with the Irish Prime Minister at the White House yesterday. Have a look.
And by the way, I have to speak of inflation. I love these socks. What's with these socks? President Trump. I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm very impressed with the VP's socks.
He had shamrocks on his socks. Do you like this format that Trump is doing?
I'm a little bit worried.
I love it.
It reminds you of Trump's history, that he basically came from telly to being the president. Because after the last debacle, if I was running his show, I'd say, do we actually have to do this? Let's do some pre-recording.
And also with J.D. Vance, he needs longer trousers. I mean, so when I have my trousers finished on a new suit, this is a new suit debuting with you tonight. The lady who fixes my trousers says I have them too long. But you have to, because when you sit down,
here,
the trouser rides up.
And Sean has definitely got Zayn.
Sean's got the snazziest socks.
Sean has got the camper van socks. I don't know whether you can see this.
Got a bit of a panorama.
Is there a significance with the camper van socks?
No,
Sean?
the only significance is growing up, never had much money, always had holey socks. There's nothing makes me feel better than a brand new pair.
Oh, I know. Or maybe
I used to organise these international conferences, and we once did. We had the good-looking Prime Minister of Spain and Justin Trudeau, the good-looking outgoing Prime Minister of Canada. And the problem was, is everybody said, I said, who'd you favour? And they said, oh, definitely the Spanish guy, because Trudeau, he has terrible comedy socks like you get given at Christmas with like Garfield or stuff on there.
Well, that's not the comedy element I see about Justin Trudeau. Anyway,
I bet you Trump's going to get socks for Christmas.
Probably.
Now.
Right, now, coming up, more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and Prince William is on the front page of The Sun. We will tell you why next. Oh, and I am covering for Patrick tomorrow night as well. There is still just enough time to get your ticket to join me here with our live studio audience.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. To finish off the week, we're going to see a cold start tomorrow, frost in places, then another day of sunny spells, but also some showers. And it's still going to be feeling largely chilly too. That's all thanks to this northerly flow of air, bringing in some cold air from the Arctic, stretching its way across the country. There's some slightly lighter wind, which are going to make things feel a little less chilly as we head into tomorrow. But for the overnight period, a continuation of some showers feeding into northern areas, likely bringing some snow, particularly across the Scottish Highlands, and then later on to the night we could see some hill snow across parts of Wales too. But a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, but the clearest skies across parts of the south and southeast where we're likely to see quite a sharp frost. But overall into tomorrow, it is going to be a cold start for many. Still plenty of showers by the time we start Friday morning across the northeast of Scotland. Perhaps a little bit brighter across the west, though likely seeing some patchy frost here. Largely dry and bright across parts of Northern Ireland, though can't rule out a few showers skirting coastal areas. And a mix of cloud and some showers across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon. And into next week, staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys with me, Bev, tonight and tomorrow. We're looking at some more of the front pages. The Sun has done an interview with Prince William in which he tells the newspaper the story behind supporting Aston Villa. He's also backed New England manager Thomas Tuchel. Is it Tuchel, Matt?
I'm no football person.
Sure.
I think so.
I'm no football person,
Anna?
sorry.
No,
with the least football-y chair.
You have one job.
I think it is. We failed. We failed. Sacked.
To win the World Cup, he said, if I'm home alone with the children, I probably don't have the pre-match pint. Why not? But I do have a bit of superstition about where I sit when I'm watching them. If we're not doing very well, says Prince William, I start moving around the house quite quickly and I put the children in different positions, hoping that's going to change our look.
That's quite sweet.
That's quite odd, isn't it?
I think that's really weird.
Yeah, all superstitions are odd, though, aren't they?
I want to ask AI how you say it, Thomas Tuchel.
Tuchel, I think it's...
We'll AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit... We're getting interesting press from William and Kate now. I wonder what's going on. The Guardian. Let's see what they're saying. Streeting has scrapped NHS England in high-stakes push to improve care, they're saying. And then also onto the Times. Putin backs a ceasefire in Ukraine, but on his terms, they're saying, with a rather unflattering picture of Vladimir Putin's expression on his face looking a little puzzled. And the Express, Putin, I will agree truce, but only on my terms. They say that he will agree to the short-term ceasefire, but he's saying that Ukraine must not rearm. So a delicate situation still. Now, an American tourist in Australia has sparked outrage after she snatched a baby wombat from his mother. Watch this.
Just caught a baby wombat. Look at the mother. It's like, oh, it's chasing after her.
I caught a baby wombat. Okay, Mom. Let's let him go.
No, he's right.
All right, let him go. Come here, Mama.
Well, the joke could be on that lady, Sam Jones. She's now been investigated for potential breach of her Australian visa and could be facing deportation from the country. I found that quite heartbreaking to watch, Hannah, didn't you? That the mother's stood there, Mother Wombat, if you're listening on the radio, sorry about that, but the Mother Wombat's there going, you've literally ran away with my baby.
It's the person... The thing with all these things I find most distasteful is the person who's actually filming it and just laughing and, you know, just using this lovely wild creature as just, you know, throwaway entertainment.
That's the trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm part Aussie. And
social media, but I find this sort of thing really upsetting.
I mean, I'm part Aussie, and I can tell you that, you know, it just goes right to the heart of a symbol of Australianness. And, you know, she'll be lucky to get out of the country alive. She's probably being deported. It's not a bad idea to save her from the mad crowds angry at her actions.
It's part of a trend, though. If you see a lot of YouTubers now, they're having to do increasingly more extreme things for views and stuff, and there's a whole string of YouTube behaviour which is just basically out of order, annoying people, doing things that are wrong. I actually think they do need to make an example of her. They do.
Do you remember that awful slapping craze?
Yes.
Where the people were actually hitting people on tubes and trains
we had
and
a phrase
videoing
where boys were running around scaring women for views and stuff like that.
It
was really out of order.
Right, listen, we got Joe, our reporter, to go to Tesco's because they're giving away their yellow label food at 9:30 for free now. Now, we've all got a little pastry item here. I seem to have a cheesy twist. Matt Lazar has got a very appropriate little iced donut there. What have you got there, Sean? Is it a pan au raisin?
It's a pan au raisin, apparently.
Oh, I think it's a pecan. It's pecan.
Oh, it's pecan, pan au pecan.
The pecans don't look
I've got a lovely flaky croissant.
Now, they aren't the freshest, but if you put that in the air fryer in the morning for 60 seconds, lovely.
So when I worked for Ed Miliband, I used to work with Neil Kinnock's daughter Rachel, who's very glamorous, and she would always turn up 15 minutes before the train. I would turn up 10 seconds. I would have the discounted yellow stickered pan au chocolat, and she would have her own homemade granola. This is having a bit of a flashback to the whole of the 2015 election when I fell.
We were discussing this outside, and I actually got a yellow sticker sandwich this evening in M&S, and it was delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Absolutely fine. But the actual... that's rather lovely, actually. That's dinner for me tonight. But the principle of giving away this food for free at 9:30, our charity worker earlier who was saying that it's just a bit of a con, that actually it's not doing anything for poor people. They're just... Tesco are mean they don't have to throw their food away. It's saving them money.
Yeah, I don't think they're saying it's for poor people, though, are they?
Just because Tesco might be gaining out of it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And I actually think, you know, food should not be wasted. If it's good food that can nourish somebody, then it should be used.
And our economy is very, very wasteful of food.
But it's the waiters at 9 o'clock.
To a criminal level. I've got to say, though, the idea that it's virtue signalling did tweak me a little bit, but if you're Tesco's, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, so you might as well do.
Well, thank you to Joe for running down to Tesco's and bringing us these freebies tonight.
Mine's very good.
Coming up next is Headliners, presented by Josh Howie. Josh, what have you got on the show tonight?
Hey, Bev, nice to see you. Hello. Guys, if you could just leave behind any remainders, I'll take them home for the kids in the morning. All right with you. So we have a mental health board in the US, someone identifying as a turtle, and we have Indian women being able to kill men, and a trans man golf in the Met. We've just basically got loads of news. Paul Cox.
What? They're allowed to kill men?
Thank you, Josh.
Why?
Right, I will be back tomorrow from 9 p.m. Matt, great to see you.
Always good to see you.
You're trying not to chew. You've got
Absolutely, I'm trying not.
Sean, great to see you. Anna, lovely to meet you as well. Thank you all so much. I'll be back tomorrow night from 9 o'clock. Next up, though, it's got headliners, and, of course, we have your weather. Have a very good night's sleep, won't you? Oh, they're taking the selfies already here already.
Madness.
They're better than I am.
Madness.
Well done. Get stuck in, guys. See you tomorrow evening.
Hang on.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. To finish off the week, we're going to see a cold start tomorrow, frost in places, then another day of sunny spells, but also some showers. And it's still going to be feeling largely chilly too. That's all thanks to this northerly flow of air, bringing in some cold air from the Arctic, stretching its way across the country. There's some slightly lighter wind, which are going to make things feel a little less chilly as we head into tomorrow. But for the overnight period, a continuation of some showers feeding into northern areas, likely bringing some snow, particularly across the Scottish Highlands, and then later on tonight we could see some hill snow across parts of Wales too. But a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, but the clearest skies across parts of the south and southeast, where we're likely to see quite a sharp frost. But overall into tomorrow, it is going to be a cold start for many. Still plenty of showers by the time we start Friday morning across the northeast of Scotland. Perhaps a little bit brighter across the west, though likely seeing some patchy frost here. Largely dry and bright across parts of Northern Ireland, though can't rule out a few showers skirting coastal areas. And a mix of cloud and some showers across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon. And into next week, staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We want to spruce up your spring with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash that you can spend however you like. But that's not all, as you'll also receive not one, but 2 brand new designer watches and a fabulous Mulberry handbag. For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Just kidding. It's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out if goodbye to NHS England is going to happen. How do you prove if you're disabled? And how does a woman who identifies as a turtle end up running the asylum, literally? I'm Josh Howie. Tonight, I'm joined by funny people Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer to take you through Friday's top stories.
Writing my names.
But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines. Who is it? Aaron Armstrong. There he is.
I've been here all night. Thank you very much indeed. Your top stories. Hopes of an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine may be fading after Vladimir Putin set out a series of sticking points, suggesting he'll only agree to one on Russia's terms. Putin warned his country will never back a deal that allows Kyiv to rearm and regroup, adding, although he's in favour of a ceasefire, any agreement would have to eliminate the root causes of the conflict, i.e. NATO expansion and possibly Ukraine's sovereignty. The Russian president proposed a direct call with Donald Trump to resolve serious issues he has with the plan. Well, Trump responded by saying Putin's comments on the ceasefire plan are promising but incomplete. He was speaking alongside the NATO boss Mark Rutte. Ukraine's president Volodymyr Zelensky has since dismissed Putin's response as manipulative. Well, Trump says the US is ready to talk to Vladimir Putin. And maybe we're close. We're getting words that things are going okay in Russia, and it doesn't mean anything until we hear what the final outcome is. But they have very serious discussions going on right now with President Putin and others, and hopefully they all want to end this nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a horrible thing. Now, the Health Secretary has accepted that up to 9,000 people could lose their jobs through the abolition of NHS England. Wes Streeting was speaking after the Prime Minister announced the move, confirming the body will be scrapped to tackle bureaucracy and restore democratic control. Wes Streeting says the NHS has become more expensive while delivering worse care for patients across the country.
Health and Social Care Act established more than 300 new NHS organisations, created a complex and fragmented web of bureaucracy, and, to quote the Darzi investigation, imprisoned more than 1 million NHS staff in a broken system. Well, today, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are putting the final nail in the coffin of the Conservatives' disastrous top-down reorganisation of the NHS.
Staff at the hospital where Lucy Letby murdered 7 babies could face gross negligent manslaughter charges. Police investigating the Countess of Chester Hospital where the nurse worked have widened their inquiries to determine if senior staff were in part responsible for causing the deaths. An undisclosed number of suspects have been notified, but no arrests have been made. Let be serving 15 whole life sentences for murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 more between June 2015 and 2016. A teenager who stabbed a schoolgirl to death in a row over a teddy bear has been jailed for at least 23 years. Hassan Sintamu has a history of attacking girls and carrying knives before he killed Eliane Adnam in Croydon in September 2023. He admitted manslaughter but was found guilty of murder and having a blade after the jury rejected his claim that autism affected his ability to exercise self-control.
What's your name, mate?
And the killers of Sarah Sharif have failed in their appeals against the sentences handed down to them in 2024. Irfan Sharif and Banish Batul were jailed for 40 years and 33 years respectively after being found guilty of Sarah's murder. Her uncle Faisal Malik was found guilty of causing or allowing her death and jailed for 16 years. Appeal judges heard how Sarah suffered 71 recent injuries at the time of her death, and they rejected the appeal, ruling that Sharif's sentence was not unduly lenient. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines. More as we go on through the evening, but now it is time for Headliners.
Only on my terms. Guardian, streeting scraps NHS England in high-stakes push to improve care. The Times, Putin backs ceasefire in Ukraine, but on his terms. There we go. Paul, let's go to the Express.
Hello, Josh.
Hello!
Is it broken?
I don't know.
Let's carry on, shall we? Putin, I will agree truce, but only on my terms. Unclear what his terms are, and I'm sure the whole world is interested to find out. It's difficult to take these things for gospel at this stage, but I think it's good to see that we're taking steps towards peace, at least now, Josh.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Trump's plan may have come to fruition. It seems like he says it's on his terms. Lewis, one of the things he says is that he won't allow it to happen if the